Hi everyone, I previously showed how you can run and install Monocular into your own Kubernetes cluster and use it to go and manage and install Helm charts inside your cluster. So today I'm going to take a look at what's that like inside of an OpenShift cluster. And for running OpenShift, I'm using Minishift, which is the equivalent of Minikube. And once this is set up, it tells me my cluster is up and running. And the first thing I need to do is install Helm. And part of installing Helm is installing a server-side component called Tiller. And by default, OpenShift uses Kubernetes role-based access control, which means that before I go and install Tiller, I need to make sure that I give Tiller the right permissions so that it can actually create and manage the resources that charts want to create inside my cluster. Now, although depending on your use case, you may be able to use a more restrictive set of permissions. I'm just going to give Tiller complete cluster admin access so we can create and manage anything using the Kubernetes API. So we'll do this by creating a service account. We'll call it Tiller and we'll install this into the kubesystem namespace. Now I'll go and add this service account to the cluster admin role using the OpenShift administration policy add cluster role to user command, and we'll pass this the name of the service account, which is Tiller, and we'll say that this is in the kubesystem namespace, and I need to pass it the role as well, which is cluster admin. So now we can verify that this role binding is correct by running oc get cluster role bindings. And you can see if you scroll up to cluster admins here, you can see that our Tiller service account is now in this role. So finally we can run Helm init, and we can pass it the service account called Tiller. And that's going to install that. And if we check the pods here in the kubesystem namespace, we'll just wait for Tiller to be running here. And once it's up and running, we can try and install a chart. So if I just do helm install stable/marid, we can verify that Tiller is able to go and create all of these resources. So let's go ahead and delete this. And now that we have Helm, we can use the Monocular Helm chart, which is in the Monocular repository. So I've checked out the repository here. And we can go ahead and install this chart. But before we do that, I'm going to show you the specific values that I'm providing to this chart. So if we take a look at these values here. So a couple things to note. I'm changing the UI image to my own image. And this is because OpenShift doesn't allow containers to start up as root. And by default, the Nginx image that Monocular is using runs as a root user. So I had to change the image, I had to modify the image a little bit so that it was able to start up as a non-root user. And I went ahead and pushed this to my own repository over at Pridonius Monocular UI. And again, because this is an unprivileged user, instead of using port 80, I need to use port 8080. The other things I'm setting here are a specific host name for the API backend and also the front end, so that the communication works. We don't have issues with cores. And also I'm enabling releases so that I can actually go and deploy stuff from the UI. So we can go ahead and install this chart, passing in the values that I just showed. And if we run pods, we can see that's starting up. So last time I used an Ingress controller to access the Monocular UI, and all of that was on a single host name. But this time I showed you I'm using two different host names, api.monocular.local for the API and monocular.local for the UI. And I'm going to use the OpenShift router to route to these services. So we'll go ahead and create that. So this has created two routes, Monocular API and Monocular UI. I can show you what that looks like. So it's just specifying the host and the service name for both the UI and the API here. So still waiting for the API to be up and running, so we'll just wait for that. And whilst that's getting ready, the other thing I had to do is, because again I'm running this locally, I needed to put these hosts, I need to set the monocular.local host and the api.monocular.local host in my Etsy host file. So if I show you this, you can see this is pointing to this IP address here, and this IP address is the local IP of my Minishift cluster. So if you run Minishift IP, you can get that IP address. So it looks like all of my pods are running now, so I can actually go to my browser and try this out. And I'll type in monocular.local. And you can get to Monocular. And again, I can go over to deployments here and see what I have. Here's my Monocular chart that I installed. I can also go and create a new deployment and go ahead and try to deploy MariaDB again, for example. If I can find it. Here we go. And there we go. So I have a running Monocular instance running in an OpenShift cluster, and I'm able to go and install deployments. Sweet. Now there is one thing to note, that a lot of the charts here don't actually work on OpenShift due to the restrictive runtime. But hopefully we see more and more container images start to support environments like OpenShift. And for example, at Benami, we're looking into what it will take to move all of our containers to start up as a non-root user and be completely unprivileged. So if you have Minishift, take this for a spin.